Hey, I wanted to get to you today with my favorite fishing technique, kind of do a little video about it, show what I do to catch fish in the foil, because it's probably my favorite technique out there to catch them. It used to be a great technique. It's obviously gone away with the presence of zebra mussels. And with the presence of zebra mussels, the milfoil just doesn't grow up like what it used to, but it's still my favorite way. There's certain times of the year when there's some decent foil on some of the lakes. Minnetonka still has a little bit. I'm just going to go what I do to catch them out of it, because it's a blast when you find them. It just takes a little work sometimes. I'm just on top of a flat right here, pitching a little high spot in the weeds, a little corner and high spot in the weeds, and yeah, I probably caught 2 or 3 fish out of this little area. This is the first one. It's a pretty good one, about a 3-pounder. Here is a good view of the topped out foil up on top of these flats. You definitely want it to be as high as you can get it. It just there's more room for those fish to be under, a lot more shade. They just love it when the higher the foil you can find in the deepest water. Sometimes the edges of it works. Definitely a key, feeding the bait down. I already caught a bunch of fish out of the school, so I'm slowing down here. This is probably like the 10th fish we caught from here. Another one? Not a big one. My first rod that I choose, 7.5 foot St. Croix. This is a legend. Doesn't have too much backbone. It's actually got fairly pretty light through it. It's a medium heavy. I think it's a moderate. It's medium heavy moderate. Especially with people that use fluorocarbon, you do not want to use too heavy of a rod. I've had that problem before in the past by going with too heavy of a rod than what you should be using, especially when you're using it. I prefer not to use braid, just because the fish can see it. I'm also in the minority the way that I fish. I only use a 1/2 ounce weight, which a lot of people go heavier. Just going with 1/2 ounce weight, rigged Texas style with just an offset wide bend hook. I do use the heaviest hook that you can get, because when you're trying to pull them out of the foil, you definitely need a bigger, beefier hook, because you don't want it to bend out at all. The people that go with a heavier weight, definitely, if you can go with an ounce weight and the fish will get it, but a lot of times those fish are up in the foil, and so that slower fall comes to them, and they can see it and follow it down. 1 ounce weight just goes right past them. And you can use a 1 ounce weight. It works. It helps you find fish. In windy conditions, it's a better one to use. But for me, day in, day out, that 1/2 ounce weight, when it's coming down, you pitch it right in the little pocket in the foil, goes right down through it, and the fish grabs it on the way down. You can see I don't peg mine. It's just what I use. The feel is just too much for me, so I usually go unpegged. That's the first rod I use. Second rod I use, is kind of goes the opposite spectrum of what I just talked about. Go with a 7.3 extra heavy St. Croix rod, pitching jigs, 1 ounce jigs in the foil, no messing around. This one has 30-pound braid. You can definitely go with 50 pound if you want to. If a fish is going to bite it, there's no finesse about this. Definitely you can see from my video, hook sets, you're not going to jack them too hard with that braid. You just can't get them too hard, because this is all beef on this rod, so you want lighter hook set. But you can move a lot faster with this 1 ounce jig. Gets big ones, definitely helps me locate schools.
Here's another example of the hook set, just leaning back into them hard, no snap hook sets, or not getting aggressive with them too much. Here you go. Here's a couple examples of me pitching a jig. You can see I'm way more aggressive with it, moving it around a little bit more. Fish are gonna bite it, they're gonna bite it. So being just more aggressive.
Plastics that I used for the first rod I was using, it's just classic what you would do. Just June bug. When it's dark out, it's definitely, you could tell, it's paid its dividends. And then I just use a natural, like a green pumpkin or a watermelon, if you can see that. Usually just want like a 3 or 4 inch bait. Sometimes I use a lot of little craws too, pitching it in there. You definitely don't want something super bulky that's going to get caught up in the foil. And fishing flats, I'll kind of put a diagram up here as to what I'm talking about on flats. One of the things that creates the biggest groups of fish. I have spots around lakes, and they're steeper and there's fish there, but it just doesn't have groups. When you're on flats, you definitely, that's the key, is the flats. You're definitely fishing the top. Some other people might have something else going on. You want to be able to see the foil. I'll cut in a little clip here of what I'm talking about, but fish move around in that foil. I have a blast doing it. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to figure out where they're at, but when they're there, it can be a blast. There can be like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 fish in a group, and it's a blast wrenching them out. You know, a lot of times these fish move around a lot on flats. There's a lot of space for them. That's the good and the bad. There's giant groups of them when you can find them, but there's giant groups of them when you find them, but they can move around out there. You know, if they're here one area today, they might be a different area. A lot of times there's specific little areas, maybe high spots, maybe some rocks down there. There's a big reason why that foil produces more than other places, but they can move around. It's a giant expansive area. There's usually a reason why they're down there.
Here you go, once again, fishing a little flat. There's a little high spot, little point, good little place. Pitching, and yeah, you can see one grabbed it. This one's actually a pretty good one. Some people like to yo-yo it when they pitch in the hole. I let it go down slow and just hold it there, like a foot off the bottom or so. It's always been the deal for me, instead of going for that reaction strike like a lot of other people do. Once again, feeding line down, let the bait drop straight down. It is definitely a key, and yeah, they're biting.
So definitely my favorite technique. I hope you learned something from this by watching it. And can't wait till summer. Can't wait to get out there and do this again. Wish the zebra mussels weren't as prevalent in Minnesota, so foil was still going on, but it is what it is. So get out there and try it.